Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Caldrin and today we're going to be looking at Battlefield 6. Well, the beta anyway. Now if you didn't already know, for whatever reason, the open beta for Battlefield 6 starts on the 9th of August and finishes on the 10th. And then there's another one on the 14th to the 17th. If you were lucky and managed to get hold of a key, you could have got in on the 7th of August. Now there's been a hell of a lot of hype around this game. And I've always enjoyed Battlefield games myself. But the last one, you know, it had its issues. The gameplay was decent enough for me, but, you know, some of the changes they made were just stupid. And yeah, basically I think everyone's got their hopes up that this is going to be a big redemption. So yeah, let's take a quick first look at this and see if it's actually worth all the hype. I guess the first bit of good news is that we've got the class system back. One that we all know and love. And you know, I did get used to the last one in the last Battlefield game in the end, but there was no need for them to add all that in. And I'm glad they've actually gone back to this, and I think probably a lot of other people have as well. And yeah, obviously we go in here, you have your standard kind of selection of gear and stuff like that. It's quite limited in the beta. Hopefully it's going to get expanded in the full game and there'll be a lot more options to choose from. But yeah, as you can see, you can basically, in the open game modes, you can select kind of any of the weapons you want for any of the classes. There is a game mode that kind of locks it down so you can only use the specific weapons for your class. So, you know, it's up to you. If that's what you like, you can actually go into that game mode. But yeah, there's a limited selection of weapons at the moment. There's not a great amount. But there is a nice customization system in the game as well. Basically, the majority of the parts you can change out for different ones. As you level up in the game, you'll unlock them. It's not quite Escape from Tarkov, but, you know, it's a decent selection of modifications for your weapons here. Even different types of ammo. And, yeah, hopefully we might see a bit more again in the full game, but we'll have to wait and see for that. And each bit of gear you change out on your weapon will change the stats of it slightly. So, yeah, you can customize your weapon to basically fit your playstyle. Now, when I went to start the game here, there was only 4 game modes. Now, when I checked today, before uploading this video, there was an additional game mode there, or a couple of additional game modes, so they might add even more in during the beta test weekends. And this is one of the first negatives I see here. There's no server browser, and you can only have a squad of 4 players, and I couldn't find a way of actually joining on the same server as your other friends. So if you've got more than 4 friends, it seems that you're out of luck. And that's a shame, really. Part of the old Battlefield games was being part of a community, having community servers, playing with, you know, more than 4 people on your team. But yeah, I don't know. They seem to have limited it right down. Hopefully this is just a beta thing, and in the full game, you never know. Performance is decent enough on my system. Running it maxed out, I'm just under 100 FPS most of the time. Except in really intense areas, sometimes it does drop down a bit. This is running without DLSS on, so it's, you know, pure native 4K. With DLSS on, I'm getting well over 100 FPS. And I guess it would be a similar experience with other upscaling techniques. It does have frame generation as well, but I'm not using that, and I don't think I'd want to use frame generation in a competitive PvP FPS game, but I don't know. I guess if people do have performance issues, they can try and give that a go and see what kind of results they get. And I've seen a few posts popping up as well where people have been having performance issues, especially with mid-tier hardware. Obviously, I can't really comment on that. My stuff is pretty high-end. But, you know, it's an open free weekend to play, so, you know, if you're worried about that kind of thing before you buy the game, jump in now and test to find out. And then obviously another big thing was secure boot. This game needs secure boot because it's part of their anti-cheat system, or their anti-cheat system relies on it being enabled. Now, I've worked in IT all my life, so, well, all my adult life. So, you know, turning that on was not an issue for me. And, you know, it's generally recommended by Microsoft to have it enabled on Windows 11 anyway. It's no longer a requirement, but they do recommend it. But I can understand why some people are worried about going into their BIOS and playing with different settings. There's so many different motherboard manufacturers out there that use totally different BIOS layouts as well. That, yeah, I think a lot of people who are not sure would be scared to go in there and just wouldn't want to. But saying that, more and more games are going to start requiring this in the future. I think the next COD game's going to as well. So You know, I think it's something people are going to have to learn how to turn on. I think most modern motherboards will probably have it on as default. But yeah, it's one of those things to watch out for. If you've got an old computer, maybe it doesn't have it, then you're probably out of luck. And from my point of view, having it on or off, I've not seen any performance impact in any games with secure boot enabled compared to it being off. So there's that as well. And then the only other issue I've really seen mentioned is that there's a queue to get into the game. On the first day, I think it was like 200,000 queue. It took me about 5 minutes to get through that most. And then yesterday I was playing peak time EU time. There was a queue of about 1,000 and it took a few seconds to get in. So I expect there to be a bit of a bigger queue on the weekend when it goes fully open and everyone can get into it. But I think it moves along fast enough, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Now back to the game itself, the map size it seems a bit small. I know the max player has obviously been reduced to the 64 at the most compared to the last game, but the maps just seem smaller than most other Battlefield games. Now, you always had a few small maps in them, so it might be just the ones they've added in the beta test are pretty small. Or I've just been unlucky and not got into any of the larger maps yet. But the ones I have seen don't really lead to you being able to use vehicles too well. You do get a few tanks and stuff like that, but because it's so close quarters, it's hard to kind of defend yourself in the tank against people with RPGs. So yeah, again, I'm hoping the full release will have some larger maps, so you know we can get into some big vehicle combat that that the Battlefield games are known for. Now to go on to kind of the general gameplay and gunplay of the game. People are going to probably not like me for saying this, but to tell you the truth, for me, this plays a lot like the last game, and a lot like the game before it. It's very similar. I guess obviously it's based on the same engine anyway, just with some updates. So yeah, I mean it plays very similar to that game. If you didn't like the way that game played, then you're probably not going to like this. But for me, the gameplay was not what I disliked about the last game. There was other parts of it that I didn't like. But yeah, other than that, this plays well. It plays like a Battlefield game. You know, it's not a military sim. Battlefield's never been that. The main negative with these new Battlefield games is the lack of team play. Because in the older games, you know, it was all about that team play. If the team worked together, you're always going to win. With these newer ones, it's, I guess, similar to COD, where you're just going out and running around and shooting people, trying to get the most kills. You know, I'm sure if the team could work together, that they would end up doing a hell of a lot better. Because you're just restricted to playing with 4 other people, I don't think that's going to happen. So what we're left with is a kind of a fast-paced shooter where everyone's running around and shooting each other, trying to get the most kills, and yeah, that's what it is. That's what Battlefield's been like for the last few games. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed with that. I was really hoping they would go back in time a bit and look at like the old games like Battlefield 2, maybe Battlefield 3 as well, where you had that team play and you had to work together to win the games. But yeah, I think they've missed the spot with that. It's not to say this is a terrible game though. I'm enjoying myself. It's a lot of fun and the battles can get really intense at times. And yeah, as long as you keep reviving your teammates like I'm trying here, you can do pretty well. And you can get rake into points for this as well. But yeah, it's a nice mechanic they've added where you can drag them out of the fire as well, so it's a bit safer to revive people. Of course, I forgot I was support here and forgot I had the paddles to do the reviving with, but no matter. And I guess, yeah, the next thing, which is a perfect example here, is the destruction in the game. Now, they've seemed to up the destruction quite a bit in this, and most of the buildings in the game can be smashed up and holes blown in them, smashed down completely. It's yeah, they've definitely stepped that up, and it allows the maps to be a bit more dynamic. You can completely change the kind of layout of the map because of it. And in that way, it does remind me a bit of the older games before. I think it's Battlefield 2 that started with the destruction. But it's always, since then, it's kind of always been part of the Battlefield game, being able to smash walls down and change the layout of the map slightly and so on. And it's good to see it actually coming back in this a lot more than it was in the last game. And yeah, it just allows the maps to feel a bit more dynamic, especially as you get towards the end of them, where like most of the buildings have been smashed up and destroyed. So yeah guys, that's a quick look at Battlefield 6 Beta. Now, I'm enjoying the game so far, and I think from the experience I've had, I'm probably going to pick this up when it releases. But yeah, I'm going to play a few more over the weekends and the next weekend after as well. And yeah, I might do a few more videos, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.